Hey everyone, welcome to my Q&A Wednesday. How is everyone going? I'm jumping on live as promised during our 30 days of rebrand celebration here in September. So I'm gonna just hang out for a few and make sure, let's make sure we are public and see if any of you jump on. And we did get some questions and such, so we're gonna be answering those today and just giving you a little feedback and sales and money making tips for you to take on today and the days to follow. So I'm Jena Rodriguez, if anyone's new to me, and we're here in my Get Your Brave On Facebook group. So we are celebrating 30 days this month of a rebrand, a rebirth of my company. And we went from Brand with Jena and renamed, redesigned, re-envisioned this company. And now we are Brave Masters. And so just so excited to, number one, just be on the other side of some crazy things happening here in Houston, Texas, as many of you know. And I am excited to be celebrating the rebirth of the company and sharing with you guys every day. We're sharing tips, or we're sharing something free, or, free, tools that you can use, asking questions, getting your feedback, coaching inside of the group, all of those things to make sure that you guys have a really powerful September and understand what we're really about at Brave Masters. And so today is no exception. So let's see. I don't see anyone. Let's see if we just make sure everything's working here. We are live. This is how this works, right? I'm kind of new to this Facebook Live thing, so I'm just always trying to check to make sure I'm doing everything right. So, all right, we'll wait a few seconds and see if anybody jumps on, but otherwise I am going to reference some questions that were asked yesterday and make sure you have those answers. And, it's interesting, this week we've been talking about money, and the truth is, for me, the truth moment is that a business is not a business without money coming in, money going out, right? We have to spend in order to make the money, in order to market ourselves, and in order to invest in the strategy that's going to up-level and accelerate our results. And so this week has ironically been about that conversation. And you guys were so engaged, and thank you so much for playing along yesterday or the day before. Actually, every day you guys are commenting, and I want more of that. This month is about getting this group to really be supportive and engaged and with each other. And the good news about Facebook groups is that you can be visible to each other, not just me and my team, but to be visible for each other, to be available for each other. So that's what this conversation is this week. I really, I went into this month going, what are we going to talk about? And it was just what was naturally there. I kind of brainstormed a couple concepts, and we're going to keep rolling out some of those ideas and thoughts and such as we hi Joe, I just saw you. Hi Joe. Welcome, and good morning Yvette, glad to see you here. Thank you so much for joining in. We do have your question on cue, so we're going to answer that live. And so what I was saying is that, there's different conversations that I have over and over and over with clients and like you guys. And the bottom line is money makes a business work, right? And we want that success. We want that accomplishment. And the more that we can measure our success, and clearly, I'm very clear that, success is not just about money. However, in a business, if you're not making money, then you're just basically, taking care of a hobby. And I know that this group and these Brave Masters that I serve and that are in this community are about helping as many people as possible. And the byproduct of that should be making money. So I'm going to dive right in to some of the questions. Yvette, thanks for being here. And I know I'm going to actually answer your question first, especially since you are live with me. And, you know, she is a dear friend of mine and client, and is a extraordinary wedding planner, coordinator, and she is just an amazing support for wedding brides and grooms and planning that wedding day. So your question yesterday was how to talk and show your value, right? With showing your value and your unique features of what you offer, and helping people know that how awesome they are, and what do you need to do to articulate that, right? Is that basically the question? So here's the thing. Value is a great conversation, and I love having it. We do have to connect to our value first before anyone else can perceive it, right? It's all about perception. What I consider valuable or important or priority or urgent and all of those things is very much my own. And so if you perceive your own value first, then others can perceive it as well. And ultimately, the perception of value lands on the consumer, lands on that prospect, right? So if they value, especially in your case for weddings, if they value the dress, right, and they're willing to pay $10,000 for the dress more than they value the experience of their day, then that's why they might not necessarily see the price as appropriate for them. What I offer you, Yvette, is that it's about valuing yourself first, sticking to your value, right? Understanding what your prices are, and when you communicate with others, and you know this best, I know you have because we've had these conversations, is first find out what they value, right? They aren't going, if you just sit down and share your features, your benefits, how great you are, how many years experience you have, and this goes for anyone, they can't necessarily hear you from a place of what they value. So the most important thing for someone to see your value is to first listen to what they consider most valuable. And once you do that, then you can respond to them from a place of how you can help and how you can meet them at that most valuable place. And when you get them to see that what you offer solves that problem that they value most. And of course, the important thing is when you're having a conversation with someone, you have to find out what they value most, right? It's a question process. It's an interview process. And once you know that that's what their heart is set on and that's what they're willing to spend money on, then you can then speak to what you do to solve that problem. If we go into a sales conversation or a prospect conversation with everything that we're great at and we're best at, and they may care less, they may not even matter. It may not matter to them. So the most important thing we can do to articulate our value is to find out what they value first. Because what we value in our work is not the most important thing in that conversation. The most important thing is what do they value, because that's what they're willing to spend money on most likely. And so getting grounded in what you do, getting grounded in the transformation you make, certainly handling your messaging, which I know Yvette, you and I are working on together actually, and continuing to be grounded in what you do so well for people and continuing to master that conversation, taking that into a prospect conversation is the best way to articulate the value that you bring. I have a vast array of, tool belt, right? And tools that I use and experience, 20 plus years of experience. And if I tried to overwhelm someone with everything I could possibly do for somebody in a conversation before I had a chance to say what matters to you, then they would literally be like, well, that's great, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me, right? So it's very much about knowing who you are, knowing what you're capable of, and knowing all the experience that you bring to the table, yet not starting there, starting with the question for the client. or the prospect and saying, what do you value? What do you want out of that special day? Especially for you, Yvette, they are building an amazing experience on their wedding day. And so the opportunity is to support them in having that come to realization. And if we know that that's what they want most, and that's what they're budgeting for, and that's what they value most, then you can speak to, this is what it's going to cost you. This is the investment to have that outcome. So speak to me, Yvette, if you can. Let me check a couple comments. Did that help? She says, yes, yes, with a AS. Okay, great. Awesome. So I hope that was supportive and helped everyone else listening. Value is such a big conversation, and I love having it, because, when we're grounded, then things really start to work a lot easier. Okay, good. Thank you, Yvette. Glad you're here. Hi, Angel. Hi, Naomi. Love you. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, husband Alex. Thanks for being here. And Joe, hope you're still online. So, awesome. I love the hearts. This is so fun. All right. So next question. Yesterday we had Naomi. I will go to your question since you're here with us live. And your question was, how can you turn radio opportunities into client prospects without the ask? How can you best use a radio segment when there's no room for an offer? So number one, I know you well. We've known each other for many years, and you are an amazing relationship coach and all of that. And so let me ask you, if you're still here, what's the question around radio segments? Meaning, are you doing podcasts, or are you doing radio, studio sessions, or all of the above? So if you are here, answer that question for me. And there may be a little delay, so we'll see what's happening here. So if you can answer that, feel free to comment. But in the meantime, I'll speak to what I think you're asking. Okay, great. Doing a studio radio session weekly. Hi, Angela. Thank you. So the radio or podcast or any type of interview. Here's the thing. It very much for me is about visibility, credibility, thought leadership, building your authority in the space and the eyes and the ears of your prospects. So if you're allowed to take that segment and then push it out in your online marketing through your email marketing, through your social media, inviting people to take a listen, things like that. Ultimately, that's what I would consider podcasts and also radio spots to be the most effective at. And when you can't ask or create a call to action, certainly I think there may be a way, and I could be wrong. I don't know if these hosts that you're working with are allowing you to at least give your website and ways to connect with you. But I think the most powerful way to do what you're asking without actually an official ask or offer is to seed. Right? So seeding throughout your conversation, when it's appropriate. So what I mean by that is, if they're interviewing you and they're asking what you do for people and how do you transform their lives and what's your business all about, and you say, when I work with people in my coaching program, when I work with people one-on-one, so then you're seeding the fact that you are for hire, right? But you're not making an offer. And that's been I think the most powerful way in my world, especially with podcasts and such. Now, if a podcast does allow you to make an offer, even if it's free, then you invite them to something complimentary or something high value that you're giving away on a website, or just visit you at your website and check out all the free and complimentary resources. But seeding is really powerful. And Naomi, so you're saying, so ask for copies of the segment, not offering ways to connect with me. Okay, I'm seeding well. Great. So yeah, absolutely. See if you can take copies of that segment and use it for your own media library. You might also add a media page to your website. Sometimes you might, if you do a blog post and you had a conversation on the radio show, when you blog post about some kind of subject or conversation, and then you leave a link to the MP3 of that segment, then you can have them jump over to that and listen in to a recording. So that's one more way for you to utilize that segment. So you definitely want to say, as seen on whatever that station is, in your marketing materials and your bios and things like that. So it helps to increase your credibility and your visibility, of course. So yeah, great idea about blogging. Yeah, so blogging, one of the things we started doing probably about 2 years ago is every blog post, for the most part, has some other resource hyperlinked inside of the blog post, whether it's, hey, go check out the last blog post that talked about this particular subject, or hey, check out this freebie that might give you a little more support. Or, yeah, go listen to this interview that I just did. So those are more ways to create that connectivity with that strategy. So let's see who else is here. So hopefully, did that help, Naomi? Let me know. And hi, Dorita, welcome. Good to see you here. So great question, right? When we can't offer, there's always a way to seed what we do, let people know that we are for hire. And also, if you can ask for that segment and be able to use the recording of it, then there's definitely repurposing that has to happen in order to make the most of it, for that matter. So, okay, awesome. All right, Angel, I see your question. I'll come back to that in just a second. So we had one other question by Lauren yesterday that was posted anyway. And her question was, how many offerings or at various price points do you suggest a new online business start out with? I think there's probably, it certainly depends on a lot of different factors. So whether, are you a new business? Are you established? Are you, and you're referencing like a new online business. So, looking at what you're trying to accomplish, what are you trying to, what kind of revenue numbers are you trying to hit, things like that. But in general, I call this my brand delivery, right? It's the delivery funnel. What are you selling? What are the price points? And, and how many different options do you have? And for me, if you're starting out, it probably ranges from like 3 to 5 things, right? And at different levels. And, the highest price would have the highest access or the most value. And maybe some private conversations with you or private access of some sort. But 3 to 5 is probably a good number to start with. Again, it's very comprehensive to what your overall strategy is, and really looking at it as a big picture. But what you're getting at with that question is there is a risk of having too many things to try to create, try to sell, try to market, right? Everything you sell, there's a place to market it. And so if you have 10 things you're trying to sell, then clearly your marketing can get oversaturated and get confusing, and it's just it can confuse the marketplace. So that's my kind of quick answer to that is, if you just wanted a rule of thumb, I would probably say 3 to 5 price points or offerings to start with, and you test them, you build them, and I'm a big advocate of once you sell it, and you're in the game with your clients and you're, producing it or, sharing the online program, et cetera, and it's working, then, identify what's working and how can you capitalize on that. And then you identify what's not working and can you, course correct or pivot in some way so that it starts to work in a much more powerful way. So that would be my rule of thumb on that question. So hopefully you find that useful. Okay, so let me check. I see Angel had another question. Yeah, you guys, if you have a couple more questions, I'm going to be on here for a little bit longer, and just stick them in the comment section. So let's go back to, let's see, where are you? Okay. So Angel, you asked, what would be some most effective systematic approach to making money? What has been the most effective systematic approach to making money? Yeah, so for me, for me, getting the most bang for my buck, I guess, has been speaking. Speaking has been a huge win for me. And there was a time when I would not speak. I would not speak in public. I would not get on a stage. I would not put myself out there. And I resisted it for quite a long time. And as soon as I did and got over myself, it truly changed the game for me. So speaking has been a huge part of shifting my business into high gear. Also being willing to do things like this, getting on Facebook, getting visible. It's not my most natural state. If you can believe that. I certainly had to talk myself into it a few times. Getting on video and yet I'm so much more committed to helping you guys than worrying about my uncomfortableness. So that's the thing about speaking is you got to be committed to the audience and the people you can serve versus what you're feeling, right? So that's been one of the strongest things in my business that really started to shift my income, my visibility, my expertise, the thought leadership that people started to see and respond to. So that was one thing. The other question you have, if you have any favorite exercise or activity, getting clear on your value. So one of the things that I walk people through is looking at what do you stand for? So I call that the brand stand, getting clear on why you're doing what you're doing. Right? Why is it so important that you change that part of the world, right? And what in your history, what in your story, what in your experiences is bringing you to this place called I've got to run a business around this because I've got to make sure that more people are helped or more people are impacted in some positive way. So just looking at what you stand for, looking at what what and why you do what you do, certainly that was one of the first things I started to figure out, because number one, it should help wake you up in the morning and keep you committed, to doing it. And, cause if money's the only reason, not that it's a bad reason, we're talking money today, right? But it is, it doesn't have the legs that the emotional attachment does to the why. And, and people care more about why you do it than what you're doing. And certainly looking at, the kind of the phrase that we've heard, people, will care more about not what you say, but how you make them feel. Well, that's emotional. So you've got to connect to the emotional part of your business, in my opinion, as a business owner, so that the passion continues to drive you forward, especially in the hard times, right? Especially in those, those weeks like we've had here in Houston where it's just hard to get back in the game. And it's like, that's why we're doing this celebration this month is, we are committed to celebrating ourselves, let alone helping to celebrate with others, because the passion is there and we want to reconnect with everyone. So you just got to really look at that. And I think that's the first exercise to have to start to connect to your value. And then the second thing is to ask, what is the transformation and the miraculous things that you do for people that really makes a difference, and connecting to that value. Someone will value that result. And would I say that every idea is a great idea and a monetizable idea? Maybe not. So far, if there is passion and there is commitment and there's experience and the market somewhere buys what you're selling, the result that you provide, then I believe there's a way to make money at it. And, there's different models of making money, clearly, and we have to figure out what that is for you specifically. So I hope that helps. You're welcome. I see. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, guys. Good morning, Lauren. There you are. What other questions do you guys have? We're going to be here for about another 5 minutes. So these are fantastic questions, by the way. I really hope it's been, helpful to you. Awesome. Thank you, Angel. Glad that helped you. Again, we're talking money making ideas this week. Well, yesterday I was going to reference this. Some of you guys are here that made a few comments yesterday about sales, or the day before, I'm losing count, but the sales conversation, right? The sales question that I had. So I do want to share the kind of the tip of the day. The top tip for you is that making money, there is kind of an order to how best to approach money making, right? One is you have to know what you sell, right? So doesn't have to be, fully developed. It doesn't have to be created and then you go sell it 100%, but you got to know what you're selling. Like in general, you got to know what the result is that you're selling someone. And, what are you creating for someone, so that when you have that sales conversation and the pricing of what you sell, right? If you ever get on a sales call and you're like, well, why don't you just tell me how much you want to pay? It just doesn't instill confidence in that client for sure. So you want to know what you sell. You want to know what your pricing is, even if it's an initial decision, right? Even if it's like, okay, I'm going to sell this for, $500. Well, you may sell it once for 500 and realize how much you have to put into it to create the service or the product, and go, well, that was the last chance for $500, and up it to 1,000. It just depends. But decision is one of the most important things in sales. I've never heard a salesperson that goes out on a sales, call, and they're not clear on what they're selling, or they don't know the pricing, because that's going to be the first thing that prospect looks for, right? So know what you sell, know your pricing, and then make the sales calls and ultimately close the sales. That's the order of how we make money in business. And if, it's pretty hard to close a sale, right? Jump to number 4. If you don't know what you're selling and you don't know what the price is, because clearly they're not going to know. So you've got to be the one to drive that conversation. So that's kind of the tip of the day, right? Is knowing what you sell is primary, and then other decisions can be made from that. And again, I've been an entrepreneur now 11 years, and I've first business crashed and failed, right? You guys have probably heard some of my story about that. And then the second business was with a partnership with my husband. We did the web and graphic design company. And the truth is I said, okay, you need help with sales, right? You need to create more business. So I said, okay, just tell me what HTML stands for and I'll go sell it. Right? So that's what he was selling, but I didn't know what it was. And that wasn't even the important part. It was just knowing, what it was, how to sell it, and what's the price that you're charging. Okay, great. And then I went out and, had those conversations. And then once I started having the conversations and getting into the process, I started to see that we were undercharging, and that we were more valuable, and there was a bigger price point that we could ask for, and we were positioning ourselves differently. So all these things started to come together through the experience of those decisions that I was making. And now, of course, my business has changed so much since that time. And here we are with Brave Masters. So, which is just so exciting to see this, the night and day experience that I've created since those days back in the web and graphic design company. So let's see what else. Angel, one sales convo, I told the person she could find my prices on my website. That was like a year ago. Yeah. So the thing I want to say about that, actually, about putting prices on websites. Depending on, again, this is dependent upon your brand position, right? I call that the brand distinction process, and understanding what position you want to play. Do you want to play where you compete on price, or do you want to play where you compete more on value? And not to say that there's some things you can put on your website for pricing, but certainly I know you, Angel, you're a coach, and you have services, and you have tons of marketing experience that you bring to the table. And for me, I don't think it's about putting your prices on the website as much as it is asking them to have a conversation with you for the higher access private coaching scenarios. If you've got products or video modules or things like that you're selling, some of that might be fine for pricing online. I have my own, the Brand Clarity Accelerators on my website, and you can go out there and buy it and learn all about it. But when it comes to a VIP day or coaching, I actually want to have a conversation with someone to make sure that it's a perfect fit, and that they see the value in the investment that it's going to take. Not only time, but also money and the relationship that we would have. So I just want to speak to, it's not always appropriate in my mind, in my opinion, to put your prices online. Now, Joe's here, and he sells a product. He sells an amazing back stretcher that's revolutionary. And so of course he just puts the price online, and you can go on, order it, pay for it, and it'll be shipped to you. Yes, that's where you put the price, right? For sure. So I think it's a lot more appropriate if you've got, online products or a physical product. Those kind of things can be put online and prices be shared. So, because you want them to buy right away. So I don't know if that helped, but I just wanted to kind of respond to that comment. And so Joe, I do want to have that conversation. That's a great one. What convinced you this time for a rebrand? Yeah. So Brand with Jena was the rebrand that I created in 2013 when my husband and I stopped partnering together. He went off and he's a full-time musician. And then I wanted to kind of change the way the business was running. And my specialty is the brand conversation. Really understanding who you are, what the brand wants to be, how do you express it and articulate the brand, et cetera. And so Brand with Jena was born so that I could do more strategy, and have that specialty of the brand conversation. So recently, but last year actually, I started realizing that my conversation is getting much more expanded. Much more about pricing and value, and which has all been inside of my brand components, right? The Brandarity system that I use. Yet I felt like I was kind of outgrowing the brand that the branding that I was using. And so the brand is who you are, right? That continues to evolve. It continues to expand and get bigger and grow up and all of that. And my branding just didn't feel like it expressed that anymore and expressed where I'm going. And so Brave Masters, ironically, Brave Masters is what I call my clients, such as you, Joe. And the truth is, I believe all entrepreneurs are Brave Masters. They just have to step into it. So I was already using the language, and Brave has been a conversation. I have the podcast that goes on, called The Brave Entrepreneur. So Brave was a conversation I was already having. And when I went into kind of my rebrand process for myself, then I started recognizing that that's what I'm most committed to. One of the things I learned of myself this year is that I'm so committed to helping eradicate the unrealized human potential in the world. And I believe entrepreneurship is a vehicle for that. And how do you get to be that? Is through bravery, right? And so Brave Masters just feels so like naturally the next level for me. And I was just ready to kind of change the clothes and up level the look and feel and conversation. And my website was way outdated. I needed a new look for sure. But it was about recognizing that there was a disconnect for me. And if there's a disconnect for you between how you're expressing your brand in your branding and what you're all about and what you're up to and what your big vision is, then that's a sign that we need to start to look at, is it time for a rebrand? Now, keep in mind, I started feeling it probably about a year ago, but there's the right time to launch, right? There's a right time to develop it. And it's a process. It took months to really turn the page and develop the website, develop the logo, develop the name even, and really, create the vision so that it can be expressed in the world. So now what you see on my website and in the Facebook groups and things like that is the end result of a pretty long process. So you want to be intentional about it. You want to be, very clear that that is what you need to do in order to grow the business and move it to the next level. Sometimes it's not appropriate. Maybe it's just to rework the branding, but not necessarily change the name. So in my case, I was just at a place that I want to change the name. It doesn't mean I couldn't have used Brand with Jena and continue, but I really wanted to take my name out of it. I feel like we're creating Brave Masters here, and it's not just about me anymore. There's a community that I'm building. So that was part of the decision. So sometimes it's not a name change. Sometimes it's just a rebrand, and the branding changes so that it starts to be more appropriate to where you are. Sometimes we just got to grow up a little and express that. So thank you for that question. That was very powerful. Naomi, I lose control of the conversation when I connect. Too busy and listening to what they have been doing. Should I schedule another call to move into conversation about sale? Good, Naomi, thank you. Brave Masters connects. Okay, good. So let me make sure I got your question straight. So Naomi, are you talking about when you're in a sales conversation with someone that you tend to listen and never get to the sale part, the ask? Is that what you mean? And I'm reading some other comments here. Yes. Okay. So yeah, it's a discipline. I'll say that it's a discipline. Bottom line is, first of all, I don't think every conversation with every person always has to lead to an ask. However, there's usually something you can provide unless you don't have it, ready or created. So for instance, I've been on, quite a few sales calls lately. I just did a sponsorship in San Antonio. And so of course I had an influx of people on my calendar, and I would listen. I would go through my process of the question and answer process that I go through, and listen for what they need, listen for where they are, listen for what they value, why do they need to have it changed now, and are they motivated to have it changed now? And there were people that weren't ready for my highest level offer or even a VIP day. They weren't ready for that. And so what might be most appropriate was my brand clarity accelerator, which is a five module program that they can do online. It's self-paced. They can go online and buy it. Right. And so there was always an offer, because as long as they're wanting to build a business, which they usually are not in my case, they're usually not on the call unless they do want to do something about their business, then that was kind of my minimum offer, right? And if that doesn't work, you can always say, well, why don't you check out some free resources? So for you in relationship, the discipline is that even though you're doing the asking and they're doing the talking, you still have to have the energy, I offer you the energy to control the conversation, right? So when they get into their story, then you can kind of ask another question to direct them to where you're trying to go. So as long as you know where you're going in a conversation called, I want to see if this is the right fit and the right client fit. And if so, I'm going to invite them to do something that's appropriate for where they are and what they need. And so if you know that's where you're going in the conversation, then my recommendation is that you drive that conversation and you ask the questions appropriately to make that happen. So if you're just letting them ramble, then you're basically giving away, probably basically a coaching session, I would gather. So so it might be something we could talk offline about. Naomi, I know I've known you for so long, and I would, be happy to help you with that. But it's just, you've got to know what the intention of that call is, and you be willing to drive it. Otherwise, they'll follow your lead is the truth. So if you want them to get the help, the highest level support that you can offer them, that means hire you. That you can't help them if they don't hire you. You really can't help them at the highest level. One 30-minute session does not solve relationship problems or build an entire business. Doesn't mean it can't shift the needle, but it's like, your job is to help them at the highest level, in my opinion, all of us, right? And so the goal is, to make sure that you do drive that conversation to where you want it to go, which is typically, how can I help you at the highest level? That is to hire me. And if we're a fit, this is what I offer you, and this is how I'd like to work with you. And therefore you would get to the sale. So, yeah, so I will, Naomi, I'll give you an email. You can reach out to my, I'll send you an email that you can send, or just email me. You know my email, and we'll talk offline, so you can get more support around that sales call. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, Angel, I need more listening. Got it. Cold to warm calls versus those who have scheduled a session with me. Yeah. So here's, let me make a comment about that. If you're just connecting with someone, like you just called them to say, hey, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. That doesn't necessarily constitute a sales call. That's a connection call. That's like, let's say hello, and they're cold, like you're saying, then you warm them up and you see how they are. You see where they are. Would they like to have a 30-minute, discovery session? Then you get them on your calendar for that session. And that session has an intention of listening to what they need, having them get support, and then offering them a way to have more support with you, which is through hiring you. So yeah, so if they're really cold audience, then you can just create more of a connection call, right? Especially if you're picking up the phone and just calling them randomly because you haven't talked to them in a while. That's not a sales call necessarily. That's a warm-up call, like you're saying. So yeah, just making sure you're clear on the intention of the call. And if you have more relationship with them and you're just in a follow-up conversation because you told them you'd follow up in a month, then yeah, you want to say hi, and do you want to reschedule a 30-minute call with me? And then that 30-minute call becomes the intention of basically a sales call to see if they're interested in hiring you. So yeah, so that's a good point. Okay, guys, what else? What do you have any other pending question that you've got to have answered? I am here for you. I know I just went over my 5 minutes that I talked about, but I love this. I love what you're asking, and just these are great conversations to have, and and I really appreciate you guys being here, and thank you to the replayers that'll watch this later. And if you guys got questions as well, just post them in comments, and we'll try to come back to them inside of the thread. Any last question? Jump in there and offer it up, and then we'll close out for the day. This has been great. You guys are awesome. Thanks for playing, right? This is awesome. All right, so I don't see anything, so let's just call it a day. Let's go make money. Remember, the tip of the day is to know what you sell, know your pricing, even if it's a guess, right? Even if you have to make it up for the moment, and get out there and make the sales calls and close the sales so that you can make more money in your business, and continue to get your brave on. Wherever it's most uncomfortable, that's where you've got to say, I'm ready to just jump and feel it anyway. And so if it's making the sales calls, and sometimes it's an email to say, hey, do you want to get on a call? That's always, sometimes a first step for me, just to see if they're hot or cold or where are they. Otherwise, sometimes I make a call and then I email to follow up, especially if I get voicemail. So there's always ways to just get in connection with people, to see where they are and to ask them, for you to support them. The bottom line is, if they aren't purring, last tip of the day, PUR. If they aren't in priority around what you offer or having the solution that you offer, if it's not urgent enough for them, or if they're just simply not ready, they won't buy. They won't buy free, right? So if they aren't purring, doesn't mean they won't. It doesn't mean they never will. So it's a matter of continuing to market yourself, stay visible, and when they land on purr, right, when they're ready to purr, then you are available, you are visible. It's when we go out of visibility that someone else gets them, right? They all of a sudden they need what you have, but you're not visible. They'll hire someone else. So you've got to be that person that's in the top of their mind at all times. So that's why you have to consistently market, whether it's email marketing or social media or speaking and being seen. Then when they are ready, they'll be like, I remember seeing them last week. I need to give them a call now that I'm ready, now that I'm purring. So anyway, that's the way you approach it. And to all of you, have an amazing day. Get your Brave on. Please, stay with us all month. This is only day 6, and we seriously are going to give away things, share questions. I'll be coaching inside of the Facebook group. I would love it if you would invite people to the group. So Get Your Brave On is the group name, and feel free inside of the group to invite your fellow entrepreneurs and get them engaged in and playing along with us, because again, this is one more place for you to get visible along with them, and it's just a great community to be in, I think. So until next time, and we'll do a couple more of these Q&As. So be thinking of what your next question might be, and I'll be happy to answer them live. So until then, I love you all and have a good day. Bye, guys.